Practical Anarchy, A Guide to Self-Determination, Dickie Dredd. Part 49. Eastern Philosophies versus Western Monotheistic Dogma. Taoism, Buddhism and Hinduism approach life not through rigid commandments, but through flexible, cyclical and often anarchic tendencies. Their central teachings stress that reality is interconnected, that no single authority stands above all else, and that ethical living flows naturally from recognising this interdependence. In Buddhism, the principle of dependent origination describes how all things arise in relation to others, undermining the illusion of separate permanent selves. This makes compassion not a rule to be obeyed, but the obvious response once illusion is pierced. Vedanta frames the same point in the phrase tattvamsasi, thou art that, signalling that the deepest self is continuous with universal reality. Taoism in the Tao Te Ching emphasises wu wei, effortless action, encouraging harmony with the flow of the world, rather than imposition upon it. In these traditions, ethics are not imposed by fear or of punishment, but arise as recognition. To harm another is to harm oneself, because ultimately there is no separation. Karma here is not about divine bookkeeping, but about the unfolding of cause and effect, as natural as ripples spreading in a pond. As Thich Nhat Hanh reminds us, compassion follows not from law, but from insight. From an anarchist perspective, this resonates with mutual aid. Cooperation does not need the state's command. It follows from recognising interdependence. This stands in contrast to Judaism, Christianity and Islam, which tend to centre on one God, one truth, one authority, structures that parallel the centralising logic of the state. Their dogmas often bind believers through sin, guilt and obedience, shaping morality as commandment rather than recognition. Such systems can provide cohesion, but frequently slide into authoritarianism, justifying hierarchy, conquest and control. For anarchist thought, the difference matters. As we'll look later when we discuss justice, no baby is born evil. People are shaped by family, community, inequality and environment. An ethics grounded in recognition of unity rather than in threats of punishment aligns far more closely with anarchism. The Eastern emphasis on responsibility without coercion suggests that freedom and responsibility are not opposites but inseparable. Of course, these traditions are not immune from distortion. Confucianism, for example, became a tool of dynastic rule through its core idea, although its core idea was that political legitimacy flows from virtue rather than fear. Likewise, Buddhist and Hindu institutions have at times entrenched hierarchy. The point is not to idealise, but to note that within these philosophies are resources that challenge authoritarian morality and open space for more cooperative, decentralised ways of living. Placed in this chapter, the contrast illustrates two models of how societies anchor ethics. Western monotheisms often impose morality through obedience to external authority. Eastern traditions remind us that ethics can arise from recognition of reality's interconnection. For anarchism, which rejects imposed authority, this second path provides both inspiration and validation, showing that responsibility without rulers is not a fantasy, but a lived possibility. Case study. Gandhi and ordered anarchy. Mahatma Gandhi drew on Hindu, Jain and Christian traditions to argue for Swaraj, self-rule, which he famously describes as a form of ordered anarchy. For Gandhi, political freedom could not be separated from spiritual self-discipline and communal cooperation. His embrace of non-violence was rooted partly in Hindu and Jain teachings of ahimsa, non-harm, and it also echoed anarchist suspicion of coercive power. Gandhi's synthesis was far from perfect. Patriarchal and hierarchical elements persisted, but it illustrates how Eastern philosophies could be mobilised towards anti-state visions. Engaged Buddhism and resistance. Title's slightly incorrect there, sorry. In the 20th century, Buddhist monks and lay people in Vietnam and Thailand developed engaged Buddhism, applying Buddhist principles of compassion and independence to oppose war, dictatorship and consumerism. Thai forest monks, for example, resisted deforestation by ordaining trees, wrapping them in robes to symbolically protect them as part of the monastic community. These acts blurred the line between religion and anarchist direct action, resisting both state and corporate power through ritual. Christianity. Title was wrong again. In the book it's Case Study, Christianity, Monarchy and the Protestant Work Ethic. In the West, Christianity became tightly bound to monarchy and later to capitalism. The Catholic Church crowned kings, justifying feudal hierarchy, and amassed wealth while preaching humility to the poor. Later, Protestant reformers broke from Rome, but deepened the tie between faith and labour. Max Weber argued that the Protestant work ethic, the belief that hard work and worldly success signalled divine favour, helped normalise capitalism by turning wage labour into a spiritual duty. Here, religion not only legitimated authority, but sanctified exploitation, welding obedience to God and obedience to the boss into a single moral code. This divide still echoes in the modern world. Eastern philosophies have often been commodified in the West, mindfulness classes, yoga studios, stripped of their radical suspicion of hierarchy. Meanwhile, monotheistic religions continue to provide both comfort and control, sustaining moral communities but also fueling sectarian violence and political manipulation. For anarchists, the lesson is not to cherry-pick good religions, but to recognise patterns. Where traditions stress harmony without rulers, we can find inspiration. Where they sanctify authority, we must be alert to how easily the divine throne becomes a model for the earthly state. This prepares us for later sections in this chapter, where we ask why religion must be dismantled before a truly anarchist society can flourish.